This little bag of tricks is a gyro, normally used on helicopters, but this video is about how to use them to stabilise your camera. So when you buy it, you'll get this. I've done a few things first that you might want to do as well. These wires are quite long, so I've used a ferrite and hot glued some Velcro on just to keep it tidy. I also like to hot glue around all my little connections to give them strength, make sure they don't flex there and break. So yeah, you can do that if you want. I also like to twist my wires a bit, that helps reduce noise. But if you don't want to do any of that, it's not necessary. Okay, so you're probably wondering, a lot of people get these and they wonder what the hell all these wires do and where they go. It's actually not that hard, so let me show you how you set it up. Got your receiver here. And ideally you want a separate channel for your tilt servo for your camera, just for your tilt, and ideally you also want another channel to adjust your gain, which is what that one's for. Although if you don't have any spare channels, it's not too hard to get around it. So listen on and I'll explain that later. Okay, so basically whatever channel you've set up for your tilt servo, or your whatever servo you want to control, you plug it into that. I use channel 2. Make sure you get it around the right way. And then the other end of this with the male pins goes to your tilt servo. I'll just use this servo for the demonstration. So there you go. Now that's not going to work until this gain lead's plugged in. I use channel 5 for my gain. I've got a pot set up on my transmitter to control the gain. But if you can't do that, listen on and I'll explain how you can get around that later. The settings on the gyro, the limit I put all the way up to full. The delay I turn all the way down anti-clockwise to 0. DS, that means digital servo. If you're using a digital servo, obviously you'll flick the little toggle switch to on, but I use analog servos. I actually prefer them. They seem to be a lot less twitchy, so I have that turned off. The direction is just the direction that the servo acts in relation to the gyro. So leave that until you've got it set up, and if it's going the incorrect direction, you obviously just flick that and it'll go the opposite direction. Okay, so that's all set up. The next thing you do would be, this has to be mounted in the right axis. So the way it works is, that's the direction it stabilises in. So for a setup like this, I want to stabilise in this direction for bumps, so I have it facing, I mount it just here. In fact, I mount it on its side. It doesn't actually matter if it's upside down or which way, as long as it's facing this way. and when it goes over bumps it moves in this direction. You don't want to put it on its back like that. You can mount it either way, that way. Obviously that'll change the direction, so you can just use the reverse function. If you want to mount it on its front, you want to mount it that way. And you use double-sided tape there, and you put it on a good mounting surface. You don't put it on the surface that's moving, you put it on the chassis. So that's where I have mine mounted, which works well. Anyway, take that off. So, next thing you want to do is get your transmitter. Where is it? Here it is. I'll show you how it works. Okay, so you boot up your transmitter and your model, and power it up. I'm just using a Beck here, but obviously you're Beck in your ESC or whatever you're using. You can see here, I'll do that again. When you power it up, you can see on the gyro it flashes for a little while, which is what it does when it's initializing. It's best to not touch it, just let it steady, and then when the light goes off it's ready to go. And it's usually better to disconnect your tilt mechanism first, because you don't know where it's going to end up. So this is how it works. When you have no gain, the servo does nothing. Now, but you can still adjust the servo, obviously, with your control. So that's through my channel 2 for direct control. And this one I have hooked up, this knob here, I have hooked up as a gain control for the servo. And depending on which side here, if you have it on right in the middle, it doesn't do anything. There's no stabilisation or anything, so it's basically off. Take it to this side and it's in heading hold mode, which is the one you want. That's gain right up, which is way too much. You don't want too much gain. It all depends on your tilt mechanism and how much, but basically I found for my setup that's about how much I have it. It doesn't look like much, but that's all you need, and it's actually better for it to do slightly less than to do too much, because it really messes with the head when it's, you know, overcompensating. So now I've got that, and this is how it works. So when that goes over a bump, the servo compensates and you get a steady motion. So if you only have one spare channel for your gyro, what you do is you get a wire lead and plug that into your spare channel, and plug both the gain wire and the servo control wire in. So basically your gain wire is getting the exact same ppm signal as your servo wire. So you can get it to work the same. It just takes a bit longer to set up, because when you adjust the gain on your transmitter, it also adjusts where the servo sits. So if you got it all set up and your camera lined up where you want it to be and adjusted, you'll adjust the gain and then it'll change. So basically you keep going until you got the gain right, and then once that's finalised, you don't touch it, and then you adjust your camera position accordingly. And then away you go. Some of you may, quite common with car setups, they only give you a 2-channel receiver, your steering and your throttle. You can do it on that, no problem as well, but what you'll need is a servo tester and a lead to connect the servo tester, a Y lead, here we go, to connect to one of your 2 channels. So, okay, let's assume that this is only a 2-channel servo. Channel 1's your steering, channel 2's your ESC. Doesn't matter which channel you go for. Let's go channel 2, plug this into there, then you can plug your ESC into that and it'll operate the same. And then this one, you'll have to disconnect the PPM lead, the white one, so basically all this is doing is providing power to your servo tester. Plug it in, and then you do the same as what we did previously. Plug your gyro with gain with the Y lead into your servo tester. There you go, it's booting up, and then you adjust this to get the right gain. And that's how it works basically. It's fairly straightforward. In fact, it's probably almost easier to do than reprogramming, doing it all through your transmitter, although you can't do it remotely obviously. The setting you're looking for, so that's the middle, you want to go into negative, you'd be looking, you know, somewhere around that area. It's not a lot of adjustment. So, let's show you how this works on the vehicle. Okay, let's hook it up. Hook that off. Go just here. That stays there. This one, so that's the tilt servo, which will go, it'll only go into 1. Make sure we get it around the right way. Goes in there. And then the gain and servo wires from the gyro. I've already made my own custom wire leads that also charge the camera. So they're all linked. There we go. There we go. It looks a bit messy, but there we go. So that's set up on that now. So I've got the servo wires plugged into channel 3 of my 3-channel Futaba. This is the controller I use it, the 3PM MX. So it's turned on, power it all up. Okay, I adjust the gain. This is the channel 3 adjustment. You can see I've got it at 20%. So obviously the more I adjust it, the more it'll move. But you can see how it's also adjusting the angle of the servo. So if that was the gain I wanted, it isn't because it's too much. I would have to adjust the camera manually back. So I think something like that's about right. What's that? 24%. Now this is a really rough bit of ground. It's a good test. You can see it's working. The body, the vehicle will look like it's moving up and down. The idea is to keep the land obviously steady. Let's try a bit more gain. Now this is really bumpy, it's a good test for it. That's pretty good like that actually. Okay, so I've got this on 24%. You can see how much the car's moving around compared to the horizon. Okay, let's turn the gyro off. Which will adjust, you can see the camera changing angle. You can see what that's like. You can see how much more bumpy it is. It's hard to tell because you're pointing up in the sky and the exposure's all on. Let's try it on the other side. So this is the non-heading hold mode. It's horrible. Let's put it back to 24%. Oops. Ah! No, don't get stuck! Uh-oh. So there we have it. The tilt controlled gyro setup. Also, these are only about $11 off eBay. And the Titan 720s seem to be a good one. I like these ones because it feels solid. It's all metal casing. I've got another one which does the same job, but it's plastic and it's all broken up. It actually still works, but these ones seem to be pretty good. Also, for a tilt servo, you want something that's fast and fairly strong. I mean, it depends on the weight of your camera. For a GoPro, you want something fairly rugged. I found these high-tech HS635HBs quite good. They're an all-carbonite gear one. I had their cheaper version earlier. These are about $30, so they're not the cheapest servo, but the ones I had before were about $12, and they had plastic gears. They actually worked well until I kept stripping the plastic gears, so would probably be fine with a lightweight camera, but with a GoPro, something you need, something with a bit more strength behind it, these are pretty good. Okay.